Hello, everyone. Let's get back to our In the Inbox series. Today, we're answering question number 114 for you. And this question was asked by Merrick. And he said, is escrow used for real estate transactions in Belize? Is escrow used for real estate transactions in Belize? Escrow, I know, is something that many of us feel comfortable with when we're going through a real estate transaction to safeguard our deposit, safeguard our money, to make sure any contingencies are cleared, and to make sure that the property does have clear title. With that being said, great question that Merrick asked, is escrow used in Belize? Because as you all know, there are many things that happen in the United States or Canada or North America or wherever in the world that are not standard practices in Belize. However, good news for you is that yes, escrow is used as a standard practice here in Belize when you're buying real estate, especially if you're buying resale properties. So if you're looking for that single family home or the condo or the land that's on the market and you're purchasing it from somebody who has title to it, as part of the standard closing process, you will be working with a closing company or an attorney, and that company will typically have a US dollar escrow account. So it's going to be a Belize closing company or a Belize attorney, but they do have access to a US dollar escrow account. Now, I would always just double check that with the agent that you're working with prior to you deciding to move forward with them, because there are some closing companies that don't have US dollar escrow. So what happens is you will send your US dollars, it'll go into a Belize bank account, but that transfer can take about 2 to 3 weeks. And then if for some reason the sale does not happen and you need to get your money back, then you're going to be waiting even more time for that to clear from Belize dollars back to US dollars. But again, 99% of the time, the closing company is going to have a US dollar escrow account. Typically, though, your agent is going to guide you towards somebody that has a US dollar escrow account. If you are a Belizean or you have Belize dollars and you're planning to use that for the sale, then of course, just disclose that to your agent too, to make sure that they're setting you up with that right closing company. Now, with that being said, it's not standard for developers to use escrow companies. So it's going to be really important that you do your due diligence on the developer to make sure that you know who you're sending the money to. I did an interview with my ex-boss who I worked with for 10 years. He's a big real estate developer within Central America. I'll put a link to that in the description below. And we go through the due diligence questions that you should be asking when you're looking at developers. But typically, let's say you're buying a condo or you're buying a home, it's pre-construction, it's under construction. The developer is going to be using that money for construction of the property. So maybe it'll go into the escrow at some point initially, but it'll likely end up in the hands of the developer as they're going through their construction process. This is something that's very different than in the States, where in the States, your money goes into escrow for pre-construction or under construction, and that developer has to have the money in the bank in order to get that building built before they can even touch yours. You know, they have to deliver yours and then they can take that money from the escrow. It's not like that here in Belize. So you just want to make sure you know who you're working with. There are many great developers here. So I wouldn't necessarily say this to scare you, but just be aware that the money may not necessarily be going into the escrow account if the developer is the one that's handling the transactions and handling the sales. But with that being said, escrow is a great way to feel comfortable, especially if it is a resale property and it is standard. You will put that earnest deposit, that 10% deposit into it. And then before closing, usually about 7 days before closing, you put the remaining balance into the escrow as well. Once you've closed on the property and let's say you're financing on it, then the money, that monthly payment that you'll be making to the seller is going to go directly to the seller instead of having that middleman of the escrow, right? It's going to go directly to the seller so that you're maintaining your monthly payments and you're doing it in a quick manner. So with that being said, just talk to your agent, let them know how it is you're going to be paying, with what currency you're going to be paying, and then they'll make sure that they're introducing you to a closing company that best fits what you're looking to accomplish. And then if there's a developer that you're working with perhaps and they don't have an escrow or they're not necessarily working with an escrow company, just make sure you have that conversation with your agent as well. Again, it's not necessarily a scary thing or a bad thing, but you do just want to be aware of that prior to sending funds. All right, everybody, if you're new to the real estate industry here in Belize, or perhaps you're just you're familiar with it, I know there are many of you who listen who actually already own properties, which is awesome as well, but you want to maybe learn a little bit more, dig deeper, feel free to reach out to us. We have tons of resource guides that we can send over to you, but this is really for you to get educated on the market here, understand more about Belize real estate, and hopefully if you haven't owned yet, you decide to reach out to our team here at Luna Realty. to find that perfect property for you. Thank you, everyone. Looking forward to hearing from you and have a wonderful day. Bye.